Good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning. Today we're focusing in on the elements of art, and today a particular focus on line. Line is going to follow very nicely from last week's live stream, because we were looking at mark making, and lines are so often what you do in mark making. This is one of my paintings, and it has a little bit of everything of the 7 elements of art, and in particular line. So the elements of art are line, so you can see all sorts of lines in different ways over here. Shape, so there's all sorts of shapes all over the painting. Colour, there's about 4 or 5 colours in this one. Value, which is about light versus dark. There's lots of examples where there's light versus another light there as well. Hey, hi Julie. There's also form, so every time you do a shape and you turn it into a 3D, that's form. Texture, there's always texture in my art, and I used a spray bottle on this one to create texture. And then there's space, and often space refers to something that's about perspective, but you can also do it in semi-abstract art by creating layers, and that's what I've done in this one as well. So that's an example of all the elements of art. But as I say, today we're going to be focusing in on line. So I'll just zoom out a little bit there so you can see my folder. So I went ahead and finished off this journal, so this is my art journal, of elements of art, and put in some examples for each of the types of elements, the line, and then I did some quick line work, shape, and you can see my style immediately. And I know that's why you're here, because you also like semi-abstract art. So shapes and colour and value, and then I just played with putting the dark next to the light, but the light next to the light as well, which is always interesting. Form, which, as I mentioned, is about turning a shape into a form, and texture, and space. And I thought today we could do a lovely series of exercises to do with line. And then next week we can go into shape and then colour, and it's going to give us this lovely series of art projects to do each week on YouTube Live. And the elements are foundational to art, and you're going to discover that you already know a lot of it, which is really satisfying when you think, oh, let me learn some more, and then as you go along you'll find in fact you already know stuff about the elements of art, but you didn't necessarily know that you knew it. If I'm sure you know what I mean. So line is about expressive marks, gestural marks, geometric marks. It can be about adding depth or movement. You get fat marks, thin marks, light marks. Because we're focusing in on watercolour and a little bit of mixed media, we have these wonderful access to ways to create soft marks by wet in wet and hard marks. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've got ready. I've got a cheap piece of watercolour paper for a quickie exercise, a little bit of a warm up there. This is the plan for what we'll paint, a triptych on our watercolour paper. Play with hard lines, soft lines, and watercolour. I've put numbers on them to remind me that I'm going to work from right to left, which is because I'm a left-hander, and then I won't be smudging. But if you're a right-hander, and most of you are going to be right-handers, I'm going to write in the order for you. It will be number 1. Oh, no, you'll just do that over there. Okay, forget that, me reordering the numbers for you. You'll get it. You're all intelligent. Here's another example of line, and you can do that with masking fluid, and then you get those beautiful white lines. Another wonderful aspect to watercolour is the use of masking fluid to create line works. This is the sort of thing I thought about doing this morning, but it involves so much drying time, it's not ideal for YouTube Live. I showed you this one last week and that I'd watched a video by Laura Horn. And so we're going to do a version of this, but it'll be our version of it. And we're going to be putting down some lovely soft watercolour backgrounds and then come in with some line making. Oh, thanks, Julie, for saying that. That's wonderful. I thought I might start. Oh, I'll finish my art supplies. I've got some watercolour paper to do a contour line exercise. And then I've got on the bottom my Bauhong. This is the student grade Bauhong, and that's what I'm going to do the triptych on. I've also got over here some pastels. I don't know if I'll use them, but I thought I've had them in the drawer for a while, so I've got them out. These are crayons, so watercolour crayons, and they're going to create beautiful soft lines. I've got an apple, but you don't need to get one if you don't have one right next to you. I know that lots of you paint in the kitchen, so if you do happen to have an apple with you, that's cool. Otherwise, I'll just focus in on mine. I've got a flower for a subject for my continuous line drawing. So if you don't have a flower, again, I'll zoom in on this one so you can use mine. And then I've got a lovely range of, I've got some brushes, of course, and some watercolor markers, some most of them are water soluble, except that one. That's a non-soluble, so that's going to be how we'll make hard lines. So lovely art supplies there. I'm just going to zoom in on a couple of famous examples of paintings that have an amazing use of line. And this you may recognize Kandinsky. This painting is super, super famous and it's incredibly ugly. But his use of line, it will have a bit of everything. It'll have line, shape, color, value, form, texture, and space, because most paintings do have all of the elements of art in it. But in particular, his lines go in every single direction. So he's used thin lines, he's used fat lines, he's used color to create different types of lines. He's got all sorts of shapes in there, and it's incredibly chaotic. And you can do that with just line, create absolute chaos. And you do that by putting lines in every single direction. That'll work. This one, I'm going to put it on its side. It's not meant to be, but it's going to fill your screen nicely. Oops, there. Yeah, actually, it's lots of abstracts do work on multiple levels. Anyway, you actually view this the other way around. The point is, however, this is a painting by Lee Krasner, and it's who's that famous abstract expressionist and married to an even more famous abstract expressionist. Anyway, the point is that she's used oil paint to outline these boxes and shapes. It's full of shapes and fat lines all around, and then this incredible use of texture in the background. It has this incredible impact. I'm going to turn it on the right way and just zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little better. And it does have even more impact. It's quite a fabulous painting in that it's used all these angular lines, and yet it doesn't completely make you feel uncomfortable, unlike Kandinsky, that does make you feel uncomfortable. And you can do that with line. You can make people feel comfortable and you can make them feel uncomfortable by creating chaos or creating some stability. And this goes from chaos to some form of stability, and then you could get even more stable with another type of line. All right, our first exercise today is going to be about contour lines. I mentioned this one last week, and I thought I would go and just do it a little more. Now, this is a pretty string. I'll just zoom in on that one. There. That one maybe. That's a bit better, isn't it? Okay. Focus. Excellent. Contour lines follow the actual contour of the apple. So if I take my pretty string and wrap it around the object, you start to get, it's really hard to keep it on there, you start to get an idea about the okay, I'm only going to do this 2 times. Anyway, you get the point. On the side of the apple, you get those beautiful contour lines. So I thought, let's do that as a little quickie exercise. Here's the apple, and get rid of my string. And any pencil will do. I'm just going to use a lead pencil. I think you'll be able to see that. I'll press nice and heavily, which is something that I do all the time, is press heavily. I'm going to zoom in further so you can see better. Okay, contour lines. I'll move that to there. Okay, now you can see the apple. So here's the outline. Again, that lovely use of the word line, and it does come in like that. And, oh, no, go up there. So I've done the outline lightly. Contour lines follow the curve of the apple. The apple isn't completely, I've done that one a bit wonky because it does actually have a little indent in it. But basically, I am following the contour lines, and they get smaller as they go up there. And the other opposite way that contour lines go is in this direction. And if you decide to draw an apple, this is a great way to start to give you instant form. And they go from being lines and turn into form because you're starting to suggest just using lines that this is a 3D object. It looks like one of those lovely mapped things. So that's just a little quick exercise about contour line. Get rid of the apple and let's get into our warm-up exercise. And I'll just zoom out a little bit, too much, because now I want you to see my flower. If I put that there, I'm going to do a little practice one on here, and then I can go straight into the next one. So this one is our warm-up only. So during the warm-up, you're just getting loose, so shake your shoulders a little bit, and then we're going to do a lovely continuous line drawing. Or if you are into Zentangle, you might do some Zentangle lines to draw, get yourself sorted in terms of line, because Zentangle is completely about line. All right, let's do a continuous line drawing. Normally I do a 1 minute timer, but let's just guess at what 1 minute will be. I'm going to start down here, down there, up. I'm just following the contours of the, not actually, it's not the contours, I'm doing an outline. Continuous line drawings are about outlining something. My incredible friend Renata gave me these amazing orchids. She grows them, and she just grows them en masse. It's just incredible what she's got. So the rule of the continuous line drawing is that you don't take your pencil off the page until you're done, and then you're going to end up with a fabulous looking abstract drawing, which we're then going to be able to use in our artwork today. You could have any subject, it doesn't matter. The point is we're just going to do a series of lovely exercises on line, which is one of the elements of art. So I'm going to cast this one aside as well, dump my pencil, and let's get a triptych happening. I've got this bow hung. I'm working on a block, so you know it's gummed all the way around. I've got some masking tape, and I'm going to just let you see what I'm doing there. I'm not going to rule it up because what I'm going to do instead is eyeball it. So that's about a third, about to there. And I'm not going to press it down just yet in case it's horribly wonky. And eyeball that one as well. It's about a third. That one's good. I might move this one just over a little bit. So So that was the advantage in not having pressed it down. Yeah, that'll do. Right. Now, if you're taping a piece of paper down to a board, you might want to do all four edges. Because this is gummed, I'm not going to be doing the outside. Now I'm going to run my fingers over it, and hopefully I get some lovely outlines. Frames, they could also be called. It's a type of line again, isn't it? The masking tape. Now, let's think about what we're going to be doing, a triptych. We're going to play with hard lines, soft lines, and put down a watercolour background so that it dries, and then we'll do a lovely wet in wet. And this one is about hard lines, so we can do that third. Let's start with a watercolour background. I mentioned that I'm going to start over here because I'm going to be working that way, but you might want to work the opposite direction. First, I'm going to put down a watercolour background because then I can let that dry. I've already chosen, just open my palette, which I had covered because I was putting stuff on it. I'm going to zoom out so you can see my palette. No, I'll go right. Helen says she loves that orchid. Isn't it magnificent? Thank you. Just come over a touch more. There, now you can see it. Okay, first things first, I'm just going to spritz my palette. I go around and give everything a spritz. And sometimes I need to squeeze out paint and sometimes I don't. So, first things first, let's choose a palette. I've chosen orange and blue. I realized this is a weird reason, I know, to choose orange, but I don't tend to paint with it. And I realized that I had never touched this beautiful cadmium orange watercolor pencil. So today's the day I'm going to use orange. And as soon as I use orange, I just love to pair it with its complement, blue. So I've got, that's the black pen for the hard line. Then I've got a few different markers and things in blue, and especially going to get out an orange crayon. Oh, there's two oranges here. And maybe I'll get out the blues as well. And then if I put them away, just get rid of them, I've got a limited palette. Oh, I've got a white watercolor pencil too, but I've got this beautiful limited palette of orange and blue, even though there's lots there. All right, that means that over here on my palette, I'm going to stick with the orange and blue. First things first, mix up some orange. I've got a type of red here, but I actually love to make orange with pink. This is quinacridone rose, which is exactly the same, I find, as permanent rose. Quinacridone rose, yeah, and permanent rose, that's correct. Okay, mix my own orange with some of that yellow. Take the yellow into the pink until I'm happy with the, oh, it's so beautiful. But there's not near enough yellow. This is one of the few times that I do wash my brush, and it's to do with yellow because it is the lightest of all the colors. All right, that should be enough yellow to make a beautiful orange. And then I'm also going to grab a couple of blues. This is ultramarine blue, which is completely and utterly chockers because I use ultramarine blue the absolute most. Big fat lump in there. There's probably a few brands. It's like sticking my brush into Vegemite there. It's so thick, but it's kind of soft underneath. I only use quality brands, but I'm not sure which brand is there. Okay, I've got a yellow and a blue lovely palette ready. So let's play with a lovely background. I am going to start over here. I'm just going to do some line making with my water brush. all over, a bit everywhere. Dump that one and be quite playful. Put in, and this is what I absolutely love. That wet in wet, you know, where the paint does that whoosh. Oh, it's so incredibly beautiful what it does all on its own. And then I'll do some dry, maybe some dry up there. And then come in with my blue, and sometimes the blue is going to go into it. It's pushing it about in the most glorious way. And I am just being very, very playful and thinking about a lovely abstract background. I'm going to add a little more water. I don't really like these hard lines down there and up there. Okay, so now I've got a very quick background going there. And this one in the middle, so that can dry, and then we're going to come back and draw over it. This one is where we'll use a watercolour pencil or maybe a watercolour crayon, and we'll start to use that little practice we were using with the orchid. So I hope you're all keeping up or painting with me or doing a version or... and I know that lots of you are making this your painting time, which is really cool. And thank you for the thumbs up for those of you who've done that. That's so, so cool. Means the world to me. Okay, here's my orchid, and I'm going to start with the orange, and I'm going to do a continuous line drawing straight into that beautiful wet background. And maybe I'll do a few orchids. Oh, I might do a curve. I am very fond of the S, but maybe I'll just do a curve. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Start down here, and we've got the soft crayon going straight into the water and instant soft lines. I just think that that is so beautiful. Coming down, continuing with the continuous line, drawing, and if you just prefer to draw, then you'll just do whatever pleases you, because it's just so important to be pleasing yourself. Oh, so beautiful, so quickly. I'm going to switch for the next one to, Liz says she's watching today and taking notes. I love that, Liz. This is my orange watercolour pencil. That's the Faber-Castell. So I'm going to do another one up. Oh, I might do a little one. Bring it up, and which, by the way, is a type of perspective. If you make something larger in the foreground and smaller in the background, hope I said those words around the right way, then you get a type of perspective, because you've got larger objects in the foreground and smaller objects in the distance. However, this is a hard line versus a soft line, so they're kind of competing concepts. I don't care. Right, now the third one, I think I will switch. I did have two crayons. This is a lighter orange, and then I'm going to put in a third one up here. So it's still beautifully wet, because I was really generous with the amount of water that I put on here. And this is a much softer colour than the one down the front, so quite lovely for some background marks. And I'm just being really, really fast with it there. That's really satisfying. I can't resist bringing that line down into here a little bit, just adding in some soft marks there. So we're letting that one dry, we're letting that one dry, which brings us to the hard lines. For that, you need something that doesn't dissolve in water. So I've got a Pip pen. It's a black, and it's a nib, and it says F. Is it F for fine? I don't know. Some of them have little numbers when they're really, really... so this is black. You could use anything you wanted. You could just use a pencil. You can use any pen. The Pip pens, however, are archivally sound, so I've got a lovely range of them, like different tips. They're really quite inexpensive. Anyway, I've got 1, 2, 3 there, so I'm going to vary it on this one. The thing that's going to join our triptych together is colour, firstly, because we've got a limited palette. And then the other thing that's going to join it together is the fact that the subject will be the same. Helen says, do you recommend a particular brand of watercolour crayons? Great question. So this set is from Stadler, and I actually don't know if they are archivally sound, but if I look on the back, it's non-toxic, so it's got the little AP symbol there, and I think I'd have to read it in more detail to see whether or not it is archivally sound. Now, it doesn't say anything about that. It says artist tested. So I don't know what other brands there. Oh, yes, of course I do. So Daniel Smith make watercolour crayons, but they don't call them that. They call them pigment sticks or something. They would be archivally sound. All right. Hard lines now. We've got soft lines. We've got a background drawing that we're going to come back into and draw on. And then we've got hard line coming up. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. If you're a drawer, you'll do it more carefully. But I might only, will I repeat this or will I do one? I think I'll go bigger. That's what I'll do. And I'll bold a line because I'm now becoming really familiar with the orchid. It's got so many beautiful details in it. That goes down like that, and it's got a crossover bit. And as always, the rule of a continuous line drawing is that you keep going, and when you take your pen off the page, you're done. The beauty of the continuous line drawing for me is that it takes me away from worrying about the outcome. I'm not in control of the outcome, and I find that it makes me loosen up, and I just enjoy the process more when I'm looser. And because you're doing a continuous line drawing, you can't, I'm going to take a line right up the top, you can't be in control of what the outcome is because you're focusing so hard on the line work. Okay, I'm going to give this stem a little bit of random detail. It's got nothing to do with what I'm seeing, but we're doing an exercise in line, and I thought I might just add more lines to it because it's all about line, and I've got this horrible mess in the middle. All right, I'm going to continue up here and draw in some of these details. Okay, circle, circle. It's got all these incredible dotty bits up here. Now, normally if it was just you're working with your pen and drawing, then you wouldn't worry about the joining them up. But because it's a continuous line drawing, you end up doing little curvy things like this. Julie says, what drives your choice of composition? I know experience plays a big part, but is it a personal taste as well? Absolutely, Julie. In terms of composition, I once discovered this book, was it? Or anyway, a suggestion that when you're designing, use a letter. And I had already discovered that the S composition is just a really easy way to design. And so I use it all the time. It's rhythmical, it's organic, which suits the subject, because for me, it's often flowers and leaves and trees, etc. And landscapes, they're organic as well. But you can design in so many different ways. I've seen students do amazing things with, I'm just going to do a quickie up here with, I'm going to do a couple. You could do the letter Y. So that's also a lovely composition to use. So had I been doing the letter Y, you'd draw a little flower down there and another little flower here and another little flower that goes out there. I hope that makes sense. It gives a Y shape, but the viewer doesn't know that it's a Y shape, in the same way that the viewer, you know that it's an S shape because you're all arty, but the viewer doesn't know that it's an S shape. They're just enjoying the ride that you take them on, I hope. Cool, thanks, Julie. That was a goodie. Now, this one isn't quite dry enough for me to draw on top yet. This one isn't dry enough for me to do anything with, and there's a lovely big pool there. So normally I don't do tissues, but I am gonna on that one to speed up the drying process. Right, so hopefully this will continue to dry, and then we can paint the background of this one. I'm hoping, my goal was not to get the dryer out today, but you know, we'll see. So this one, we're focusing in on line. We've got all these lovely hard lines, and now we're going to add some lovely colour to it. And it'll be orange and blue because I'm sticking with a limited palette. Now, I could do some lovely negative painting, and this is what I love about continuous line drawings, is that you get these beautiful negative shapes. Look at this shape here. I'm going to start there. I'm going to do a little bit of wet on dry and then wet. So I'm going to come in with that brush that's loaded with the blue and going to be quite playful. This is my water brush, and I'm going to drag it down out to the edges, out like that. And then I get a beautiful tonal range. And although today we're focusing on the element of line, you can't help as soon as you begin painting to also include stuff like value. So I've got light tone, dark tone. I use that very regularly in my paintings. So I'm going to continue with that look, which actually, let's play with the opposite, which is that you put the water down first and it looks quite different. And you get the blue, and then you get quite a different soft line. It can be more beautiful. I'm just coming in using the tip to get to the edge and come down and out like that. And this will come down as well. Keep coming down and down, and I'm just dragging the brush into the water. So you get, oh, I'm going to enhance that, just bring little strokey, since we're doing line, put some lines there, but not too many. And they're soft, so they're not going to compete with my subject. So up the top, I do enjoy that wet in wet. I really do. So I'm going to do more of it. Always be pleasing yourself, because if you're pleasing yourself, you're more likely to enjoy. And if you're enjoying yourself, then you're more likely to paint more. And the more you paint, the better you get. Just adding lovely bits of, it's really thick paint, so it's barely moving. I'm going to force it. Beautiful movement. Thanks, Julie. Pull that out like that. This one, there's enough orange on my brush to finish that bit there. That's a leaf. Oh, that goes into there. So I'm just going to use my water brush and continue painting negatively, which of course is just painting around the shape. It just sounds so cool to say painting negatively instead of painting around. So will I continue with the blue coming up and leave the orange here? Yes, I will. Right. Blue, blue. I'm going to do blue up here. Wet, and oh, there's a section there, mustn't miss. And I'm going to lighten this now because it's really thick just there. So add a little bit of water and it will travel much faster because you're matching viscosity. It's far more likely to travel wet into wet when they are similarly wet, which of course is matching viscosity over here. Whereas when I painted the thick paint into the wet, it moved very slowly. You do get a lovely soft line, but the movement is really, really slow. Right, so you can see already that I'm getting harmony and unity in the triptych. via the palette that I've used, my limited palette. I think there are some spaces in there, and I think I'll do them with blue. It's really hard to imagine where those spaces are, so I'm just going to make it up. I'm just going to pick some of the lovely random abstract shapes and positively paint them. So I've been negatively painting all along. Now I'm positively painting. Bit of both really down here. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is that you're going along and you're picking a bit that you like. And I'm enjoying my use of orange and blue, but I need to bring that orange. I'm going to load some up. Go up this end. Oh, no, I know. I'll go down this end where it's redder. And yep, I know it was pink, but I love the use of red. The use of quinacridone rose, which is a pink. I don't tend to use reds now. Oh, I'm going to do little dots in amongst my curly line that went round and round and round. I bet there's a word for that where they go round and round and round. I've got light orange, dark orange. Now I'm putting in different aspects of orange, but especially I wanted to bring it down into this half of the painting. And it's an abstract, of course, because abstracts are fun. All right. Any more on that one? Love your suggestions about that. How's this one going? Not dry enough. I wanted to put some hard marks over the top of this, and I wanted to put some negative painting on this one. Unfortunately, I'm going to need to dry it. That'll give me a moment, though, while I'm drying, to stare at the continuous line drawing with the hard mark and just stare at it and decide what else to do. I'll dry this one. Helen says, why is it best not to dry off with the dryer? Thanks for asking that, because it doesn't matter at all whether you dry with a dryer. I just felt with YouTube Live, I can't edit out the drying section, and you guys sit there listening to me watching paint dry. So that's why I was avoiding it, but that's a really good question. Thank you. I'm going to go to this one here. And it is very tempting to just do another continuous line drawing. I've got a huge one. I've got some medium-sized ones. Will I continue? I'm going to use the pencil to start. And so do I do some tiny ones in there? I think I will draw aspects of it, because I think I'm going to overdo it if I do another one. Ah, that's interesting, Julie. Thank you. Because I kind of thought, it might be annoying for you to watch me drying, but fascinating. So it's not very orange, this one. I was using a lot of the reddy colours in it, But I want to take advantage of this beautiful shape up here, that there's this beautiful, it's like a back run and it's happened all over the place. And this is one of the many beauties of using the wet in wet technique and not controlling it. And so I love that textural mark. And I wonder whether or not that textural mark might look a little bit like this section of the, I can just see that I need to switch over there for a minute and zoom in so you can see that way better. There, that's better. All right. Yeah, so I want to take advantage of this furriness, lovely wet in wet thing, and imagine that it's part of the centre of the orchid. So that means I'm going to draw a frilly line. I'm following this line on the outside, and it comes down to there. It's the tiniest bit damp. That means I'm going to be pushing right in because I press heavily just without trying. This comes up like that, and then it's got this bit here. I'm just staring. It's a little bit like a continuous line drawing, and then it's got these sections like that, and it comes down in there, and more curly lines along there, more curly lines, and this is actually dark. I'm going to put that orange solid. Then I've got a lovely variation in line. I wonder if I can do that somewhere else. I'm not loving that. Let's switch to the blue. Oh, I've got an Inktense pencil. This is, I need to move the camera even further that way, don't I? That way. There. All right. This one is an Inktense pencil. It is blue, iris blue. Huh, kind of appropriate. The blue, I think I will try and turn this one into a petal. So I'll make the little furry bit be on the inside again, because then I'm going to capture it. So the petal comes down like that and out like that, out there. And then it's got all these beautiful lines in it, which is so perfect because we're doing line work today. The first element of art. A few more lines, and they are kind of contour lines. Now down here is a big stem, but that's not going to work for me. I could do another central, make that another center one. So if I turn the orchid this way, I might switch. I've also got a Tombow marker. This is a blue Tombow marker. Sorry about going off screen all the time. It's the opposite when I'm looking at it. It just says water-based. But I do know that Tombow are a lovely brand and that they are archivally sound. Right, go back to here. So I'm still blue. I'm still sticking with my limited palette. I'll move the camera out a little so you can see a little bit more about where I'm going. Down there. Okay. Down. Yeah, so I'm going to make this section here the center of this. So I'm going to draw, and it's got a lovely fat tip. So I'm going to use it to its advantage and put it down there. It's not even slightly the same blue that I've already used, but that's okay. It's done now. There, and then put in some dotties, which is a type of line. It's just a really short staccato line. Stabby, stabby, stabby. And all right, turning that into a right royal mess, and I don't really want to continue with the that blue. I'm not really loving it. Okay, let's go to a crayon, the orange crayon. This is the light orange crayon. So that's kind of cool, because then if I hate it, I won't see it very much. Now, what can we do down here? I think I'll just do some nice petals, and like petal-like shapes and some line work in them, and petal shapes. I was trying really hard to go with the background, but I also wanted to incorporate the orchid look. So now I'm going to go to a lovely white pencil and just enjoy putting down some marks that are like lines, but they're like rough lines because I'm not holding it in the control position, which would be right down there. I'm just moving up a little bit. It gives me enough strength to make a dark mark, but it also stops me being completely in control. If you're completely in control, the mark will be more neat, and I don't want to be neat. I want to be more abstract, and I find if I hold the pencil or the brush in a more loose position, I automatically become more loose. Putting some white all in the center of that one there. Yep. I am going to need to embellish dramatically. Let's switch our minds for a moment back to this one on the left-hand side here. Does it need any more? I think this one next to the others is okay. On its own, this one, it's just beautiful. It's just calling me. I'm going to go to this one and then this one and then this one. I love the idea that you switch your creative brain from this to this to this. And then when you come back to the next one or go to the next one, you switch and you see it with a little bit of fresh eyes. I've got this white pencil. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back to the little marker, the little Pip pen, and might put in some little dark marks. And again, I'm not holding it in the completely controlled position. I'm just up a little bit. Feels almost a little bit scary sometimes not to be completely in control of my mark making. I'm just going around darkening some lines, which just means that I'm thickening lines. And I'm not thickening continuously. I'm trying to do a little bit and stop. And because that way I get a broken line, and I love a good broken line. Just continuing to enjoy randomly darkening some lines. It is random, but it's also not random. It's random in that I'm going from spot to spot to spot, but I'm also not being random because I am not staying in the one spot. I'm thinking about movement and how each element you add can add a sense of movement, can help bring the viewer all around. I'm going to put some dots in here. And if I just put dots over in this section, I might draw some lovely focus because it's full of lines that are long and continuous and maybe some fat lines and some thin lines. But I'll zoom in on that. That's just fun. Hopefully that draws focus. Oh, I've got this like checkered thing here, and then it's nice and close to this dotty section. And if this is the only spot that I put dots, I get an instant focal point. I'm adding texture, I'm adding line, I'm adding interest. I added value here by darkening some of these lines. Would have been much easier for me to get a fat black marker to darken those lines, but it's quite nice if I continue in this lovely scratchy way. It is very scratchy when you're using it. All right, stop fiddling on that one. Let's move to just moving out so you can see the yellow. I was going to call it yellow. It's so yellow. But this one is, I'm really enjoying that one. Just moving out a touch more, like that. Just trying to get it right in the center. There we go. All right. Now I could add some dark lines to that. Could add some dark lines to that too, so that that line is used everywhere. No, I think this was the watercolor pencil. I've also got this watercolor pencil and another blue. So this one is Lagoon Blue. All right, and it's beautifully sharpened. I can't. Liz says, "Can't wait for this one." Thanks, Liz. I love that. You're excited about that. Yeah, so my options are that I continue with the continuous line drawing. So I could draw over it again and make more of the same. I could use this to just draw focus on this particular orchid, and I am loving that orchid. If I do a continuous line drawing over the top of it, it will send the orange ones into the background. But I quite like the energy in that one. So therefore, I'm going to use this to do a little bit of negative drawing. It's always a risk, isn't it? Whatever you do. And again, I'm not holding it in the completely controlled position. I'm giving myself the opportunity to be going outside the lines. Now, if oh, there's a lovely petal there I just went over. If I keep this like that, I get that lovely, yeah, Helen says, this is a point I found very difficult, what to do without messing up. Absolutely. If I keep this here, it'll be texture, and if I wet it, it won't be texture. So I'm going to wet it because I don't really want texture just there. And I thoroughly agree with you, Helen. It is the hardest part. For up until this point, we've just been playing and having a really nice time. And you could just give up and go do something else, and that is okay. It wouldn't matter. You've had a nice time. You've been creative today, and it really, really doesn't matter. But I always reckon it's worth pushing the envelope, worth pushing the design to see if you can make it better, because I think I've got the beginnings of something that might be lovely, and if I just leave it like that, it might be okay, but I just love the idea that I might turn it into something lovely, and that's what drives me on to just take the risk and see what happens if I just push through. And that's the other reason why working in a set of 3 is a wonderful thing to do, because if you work in 3s, I can chuck one out. I can say, well, this one was just a big experiment, and I'll cut it off, and that's okay. I love the idea of working with a number of panels. Sorry about not finishing my sentence. Julie says, love the blue, helps it connect with, doesn't it? Yeah, that's exactly right, because this one was missing the blue. So that one was with my Lagoon Blue ink tints, and that worked really, really nicely. So do I continue in the same way? I think it will just change it up too much if I, what does this blue look like if I go a slightly different blue? Right, so this is far more like phthalo. So this, wow, this is the advantage to crayons. I can paint that in a flash. Wow, so much faster. It's I've been working on some videos for stuff to take when you go traveling or painting on plein air, and those crayons are definitely going in. They are fast and wonderful. So I'm getting beautiful textures. I'm able to keep some of the texture of the mark making, plus wet it because it's a water soluble implement. Marker, it's not a marker, it's a crayon. All right, I've got 2 sections there, and I have such a thing about 3s. I'm going to use a 3rd blue because I don't know which blue will look better up there, so I'm just going to do This is my Faber-Castell. I think this is cobalt. No, it's ultramarine. It's a really light ultramarine. I'm going to put in some colour there, and I'm outlining effectively. I'm negatively painting around my focal point, but I'm going to keep some of the detail of the soft one now. I wasn't down here, I just painted over it, but I'm going to keep some of the detail of that pencil, of that outline. This pencil is so beautiful and soft, and it's got a really fat tip to it. Of course, you could sharpen it and give it a less fat tip, but no need, I think, when you're doing this sort of thing. Blue, blue, blue. Oh, it needs the tiniest bit there, tiny bit there, and it needs a tiny bit there. Oh, a line. That's better. A line. Oh, go into this blue here. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, and this blue here. Pencil in a wet surface. Watercolour pencil in a wet surface. So beautiful. Just pick up. Oh, I'm going to dip it in the water. And with a wet edge, put in that line. More water on the tip of my watercolour pencil. I'm starting to just really get into watercolour pencils. It's really satisfying. It's kind of custardy, feels. And if you like custard, then you'll know what I mean. It's kind of squishy and satisfying. Reminds me of home cooking because my mum used to make custard. And she probably made it when it was cold, and it's winter here, of course. Is anyone not in winter? I know lots of you, but sometimes a lovely person joins from Canada, and last week there was someone from Queensland, and they're probably not in winter like we are in Sydney. I'm just softening off. So did I help it or did I make it worse? And if we knew that was the risk that I was taking. The other thing that happens is that the one, if I haven't improved it, becomes, oh, Lena's in winter, 24 to 28 degrees Celsius. To me, that sounds like a summer day, 24 to 28 degrees Celsius. Cool, Lena. And yeah, steamed pudding. Yeah, custard. And my mother-in-law made pudding and custard. Very yummy, beautiful textures for your mouth. That's off to, oh, barley, it won't be hot in there. And Lena says it sure does. Right. It's taking my eye up and it needs something up there, unfortunately. And I'm going to have to do it with blue because I do not want this orange to win. I don't love this blue. It's going to have to be, what is it going to be? I'm having trouble with that decision. I need something to bring it down. Oh, maybe I don't need something to bring it down. Okay, let's take a risk because I don't know what to do. That's the kind of winter I like, Lena. Me too. Yeah. One where it's not really that cold. Okay, I'm putting in a dark amount of purple, of orange, and I'm adding water to my brush, and I'm just bringing that line down because that was just bothering me. I was going up, 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 and off the page. So as I come down, I'm softening this off, bring that color down. All right, did that help? Not even slightly. I'm just going to soften that whole thing. No, just a big experiment today. Okay. That has brought it down, that's for sure. Lena's been dipping watercolour pencils in the water too. Fantastic. It's lovely, isn't it? Okay, I did that as a dark to bring me into light tone so that it brings me back into the painting. That is cool. Yeah, it's made a difference in a good way, that's true. But it's still totally unfinished. I am very tempted to abandon this one, very tempted to abandon it because I don't think that is going to be worth my time. So, because I don't think it's going to be worth my time, I'm going to get a black marker, a little bit. Oh, I know what I had right at the beginning. This, I'm going to just be take even bolder steps with it because now I don't care about it. I've got this magnificent, oh, I'll put it there so you can see. It's just, don't want to sit it on a wet painting. All right, this is just bothering the hell out of me. I just broke it. I break so many things. Okay, that was just bothering me a lot. So I'm just covering it with pastel and be really fast in my mark making. And then the other color, of course, is the blue. Of all the colors that I've used, not a surprise that the blue has mostly gone, except the purple's still there. And I'm going to just enjoy the adding blue marks like that and go all over the watercolor now, except for in here. Put some blue line work in, line. I'm just going for it because it was such an ugly mess. Pastel so fast. It's improved it. That's very nice of you to say. This is horrible. Is right. Okay. Orange. Very therapeutic. Think about something annoying that happened in your day and just take it out on the page. Right, I've just broken it up into lots of little bits. Yeah, take off the tape. Excellent thought. Yeah, that will really help, won't it? Take off the tape. Okay, I'm back to this one here. I'm really enjoying the beautiful pastel. I think I'll include tiny little bits of pastel in blue in this one. And then I don't think I'm going to play with it anymore. There were aspects to it that I enjoyed. Is it a success? Is it not? I don't think I'm going to care. Had a really nice time there. It's got some action to it, and I'm kind of keen on that. Helen says, it's interesting that it doesn't matter that you're using different blues and oranges, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's right. It's about a limited palette at the same time, isn't it? I quite like these lines. Turns out these lines are leading me into the design, and it does have a little bit of action. It does have a little bit like, hello, here I am in the morning time. So I don't mind that. And I think that this has improved slightly with the top being added, so that's quite cool. And I've got a beautiful background down there. And I wonder whether this blue should be incorporated into this one. I've lost that beautiful orange shape, so take a risk. Let's improve that beautiful shape, and we'll let the orange lines be on the bottom and the big beautiful blue lines on the top. Okay, I'm going to do a similar thing down here, but with orange. And then I'm putting in more of those lovely lines. They kind of match the crayon a lot. Up here, just putting lines on top that are not wet in wet. So they've got a hardness to them and a softness to them. I'm not going to redo that one there. I'm going to just add a little bit of blue down here. And I'm going to do it with the pastel because it's beautiful, and I'm enjoying that textural aspect that it adds. Ooh, I could put texture in the whole background. Okay, must stop. Did that help? Nope. Okay, water. More blue or more orange? More orange. A little bit of water, some soft orange. What will happen if I mix those two colours together? If they were perfect complements, I'd get a grey that is quite beautiful. And if they're not, then you get a khaki colour that you may not like. That's the nature of mixing two colours if you're not sure that they're complements. Ah, okay, just tiny bit up there and there, just bringing that colour all the way up. I'm just staring at it now and thinking, did that help? Did it make it worse? Just back into, the watercolour pencil and go over those lines that are wet. This is this beautiful fat watercolour pencil in the wetness there. Okay, again, I've got movement. I might be scrabbling to find something nice to say about it. I've got movement for sure of coming up, and that was the beauty of my composition. So I'm going to say compositionally, I've achieved something. I'm going to, and I'm laughing because of these big messes that I've made in front of you. So compositionally, I'm okay. But I think in terms of a successful painting, it's lacking some of the other things. But this was an exercise in line, and I've got some expressive lines, some gestural lines. I've added depth using those lines because there's multiple layers, and I've got thin lines, fat lines, soft lines. So in that way, it's a very successful exercise where you're playing with stuff. I'm starting to enjoy the middle one, which is very interesting. I'm going to go with what Liz said, take my tape off, because that seems to make things a little better because you start to see it in a frame. Really glad you said that, Liz. Really glad I'm able to laugh at myself. Oh, Carolyn says, great class. Thank you, Carolyn. That's cool. I was wondering if you were there, so that's wonderful. Okay, this one does have some impact, and this one definitely has impact, and this one is such a cool mess. It's it's like this amazing painting that's got crap all over it, and I think that it needs something. It really does need something. I've got an orange watercolor marker, but I know that that'll just pick up all this dust and not be good. I've got this beautiful blue, which was the wrong blue, but there's now, it's all been changed a little bit because of the pastel that I was using. So I'm going to risk getting the Tombow. Yeah, it's picking up all that dust. So where's my sponge? I'm going to try and put it over there and try and keep, this might be really bad for my Tombow, and I'll know later, but I just want to try one more. Oh, no tape, must remember, no tape. No tape. The disadvantage, in using pastels is that they fall off the page. If it were to turn out to be anything worth keeping, I'd have to go spray it to try and keep it on the page. I'm just enjoying mark making now. I'm just going to continue. That's actually a little better, so I'm going to continue. And this, funnily enough, is a lot like a Zentangle. You take a mark and you continue out from the one source, and you go round and round and round like that. I'm going to put a mark over there, finish that one off. Julie says, thank you, Marion. Definitely helps me see you laugh at what you perceive as a mess. I'm good at making messes. There It is such a positive way to look at it. I'm good at making messes. I'm continuing with some Zentangle marks here. Try and pull something out of the mess. Zentangle is just so fun. It's there are hundreds of videos on it, and I start watching them and I think, oh, that's a good idea. And then I try and watch them and do it, and then realize that I've lost track of where they were. And it's just much better to do I think with Zentangle is watch it and then go make your own marks, which last week I was talking about creating your own bank of marks. And Lena says that is a great inspiration, Marion. Thank you, Lena. I think I just pulled it out of the doldrums. I think that was worth it. That was twice pushing through. And great practice. Thank you, Lena. That's awesome. Okay, this one I'm starting to just love now. That is so hilarious. And this one is looking a little bit boring, and that's okay. We have had a great opportunity to play with line, and I'm so glad. I'm just getting rid of all the excess. I might put it in my water as well and just clean that tip so that it will continue to work. And I'm going to say it's time to stop. It's time. I've taken the tape off and I just pushed through a little bit, which I'm so glad I did, because I get these little moments where I'm like, run away, just don't worry, it's okay. Run away from your failures. But the reality is it's always better to just push through. And had I hated it at the end, I could have just thrown that one in the bin and kept the one that I like. I think there is a little bit about this that I might play with later. And this one, there's nothing else. Yeah, that one's done. It was a good exercise. There were bits about it I liked. It probably wants a lot of fat lines to improve it. We've been going, what the hell. If you're willing to hang around, I'm going to get a fat black marker. I played with this one yesterday. It's called an Art and Fly brush pen. And I think it's probably not going to be good for that as well. So I'll try and avoid the pastel and do some hard, must remember, no tape, hard lines on this one to give it some sort of form. And again, I'm trying to remember not to outline everything. So I stopped there because sometimes it's so obvious to just keep going around the shape, but I like lines where you stop and then it's broken and then it goes again. That's given it a little more impact. Liz says, now the one. That's so interesting, isn't it? Worth pushing through on that one. And I think I'll give more importance to here. So there were these beautiful dotty kind of marks. So if I make them bigger, I don't want to go dab, dab, dab with this because I'll ruin this tip. I think I'll put some outside the lines because that's going to make for a lovely bumpy line rather than just all lovely and smooth. It's a little bit, it's drawn more focus up here, so that's quite good. I love this one down here. I'm going to go outside. That's quite good. And this one go outside. And that's given it a little bit more impact, I think. You can see how you could go and go with that one. I'm not loving the pastel now. Anyway, it's such a good exercise in what goes forwards and backwards, and it's really, really, really a cool way to do it, is to keep playing and enjoy yourself, and also working in threes. So next week we have worked online, and this is going to be a series. I'm just going to get back my folder that I began with. Just going to hold it up because my paper is wet. And this is going to be a series about the elements of art. And today was all about line. So next week is going to be all about shape. It's going to be really quite similar, but instead of having lots of play about line, we'll be having lots of play about shape. And you're going to find that all the elements constantly interplay with each other. I'm going to give you some more examples of paintings that are wonderful examples of shape. So I've done lots of research on some famous artists. I'm going to be showing you some of my paintings that use shape in some way as well, because, you know, I should be doing some self-promotion, that's why. And then that will lead us into colour, which, you know, I could do colour for weeks on end. I could just do colour permanently. That is my favourite subject, and it's the subject on which I have the most education, not just in terms of my university education on colour, but also all of the books that I've read on it. That is my absolute thing. But having done line today, I felt that that was a wonderful way to really indulge. And it was also so nicely connected with the exercise that we did last week. So next week, I hope you'll join me, and again, to do some shapes and playing with markers and watercolour. And I don't think I'll use the pastels, because all I did was make a mess that I now have to go and clean off, shake off and spray, etc., as I was saying. These are awesome things to add to a sketchbook as well. So I thought that might be quite lovely to turn the page and add something to it. Liz says, my new Wednesday obsession. Oh, Liz, you couldn't say anything better. That is absolutely wonderful. Oh, sorry, I'm moving it all around there. Oh, I will get rid of it. So I would love your feedback on whether or not showing you famous paintings is helpful, because I'm wondering whether or not I should do a little bit more of that, or was just 2 paintings enough? I'm just going to wait to while you chat something about that. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like a bit of feedback about whether to include them. So today I had these paintings by Lee Krasner and Vasily Kandinsky, and I wondered whether or not that is a nice way to start off. Lena said it's her priority on Wednesday too. Oh, perfect. And Julie says it's helpful in books for us to read as well. Would be great. Oh, wonderful. I was thinking about that this morning, and I will so include that. And Dave says, we should let Art Society know about your sessions, Marion. I'm sure there are others who'd love to do all this learning. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Lena. Thanks, Liz. That's wonderful. Thanks, Carolyn. Thanks, Helen. That is so cool that you joined me this morning, and I so look forward to next week as well. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your support. Thanks, Carolyn. See you next time. Bye.